Welcome to SF Nonprofit Spotlight, brought to you by SF Commons. I'm Kelly Daly. Shops were forced to close and storefronts were boarded up. And then came the murals. Brought to us by Paint the Void, we've had free, accessible art covering these boarded up buildings since April. And joining me today are two of the three co-founders of Paint the Void, Meredith Winner, the co-founder of Building 180, and Inga Bard, the founder and executive director of Art for Civil Discourse. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Hi.
Meredith, if I could start with you, the first Paint the Void mural went up at Chez Maman in Hayes Valley. And since then, we have seen almost 100 take over and beautify our streets. Can you maybe walk me through how you first got the idea for this effort?
Yeah, thanks for having us. A friend had sent an article about plywood boards going up into the Mission, and the Mission is a neighborhood that I live in. And it was just this crazy apocalyptic sight to see everything shut down so quickly, and it was a very uncertain time, and people were really scared and didn't know what to do. And art has always been a big thing that we do at Building 180, and we just had the idea to kind of start putting murals up. So I had contacted Inga, who has the nonprofit, and so we started from there to raise funds to paint murals.
And you raised the initial funding on Facebook. How has social media played a role in getting the word out and getting businesses and artists connected?
I think that Facebook has been a really powerful tool for us. Most of the donations from the first, all of the donations from the first $10,000 came through Facebook. There's, I think to date about 400 or so individual donors, many of which have came through Facebook. So it's been a really powerful tool for us.
And Inga, you're a visual artist. Your nonprofit is an effort to get citizens involved in creating public art. Can you maybe tell us how Paint the Void fits in with that mission?
Art for Civil Discourse, I started because I wanted to, as you said, involve people in the creation of public art. The idea was to create events for people to participate in what goes up on the wall, to have a sense of ownership of their streets, of their neighborhood, and to encourage people to just be proud of the places where they live. And at the same time, not to have the sort of like art pop up in people's neighborhoods that is funded by somebody else, created by somebody else, something where they really didn't get a say on like what happens there, and something that doesn't necessarily reflect their values.
I was just going to ask, what are some of the themes that we're seeing that are specific to Paint the Void, the subjects that you're engaging with?
Well, so when Meredith contacted me and asked if I wanted to be involved in fundraising for some murals created by local artists, that made a lot of sense because it really, I felt like, was an opportunity to raise funds to give grants to artists that really needed the money at that time and still do, and also to give agency to people that live in that neighborhood. We were choosing artists and continue to choose artists that live in the neighborhood where the wall is, or as close as possible. And in the beginning, our goal was to just sort of uplift the streets because there was a lot of fear and uncertainty. And we had like a late recommendation of for artists to create something hopeful, uplifting, positive, optimistic. That was the direction that we started with Paint the Void. And then, of course, things got more complicated politically and with the protests. So things really changed. And at this time, we really don't make any suggestions of what artists should paint. It should really be what they think is important to express.
And Meredith, this connection with the businesses and business improvement districts and the muralists themselves, can you maybe talk about what that collaboration has been and what's been surprising perhaps about that?
Yeah, it's been amazing because a lot of community leaders have come to us to get involved or give suggestions or lend support by either contributing businesses that they know are available to paint on so that we can match artists to go paint those specific places. They've also been really helpful. We are doing our 100th mural walk this Sunday, or excuse me, next Sunday, the 27th, with the Union Square Business Improvement District, and they've been really instrumental in helping us, coordinate all the businesses that are interested in being involved. Of course, it's a socially distanced, self-guided tour, but we have a lot of press around it, and they've been really amazing supporters. And that's been with several neighborhood associations, business improvement districts, merchants association, things like that too. So we've been had a lot of community support, which only helps the artist's work be seen, and also kind of just draws people into into those communities.
Yeah, drawing people in and tracking engagement sounds like something that's part of your overall mission. And I'm wondering, Inga, if this isn't a gallery where you can track how many people have come into the space, or a museum. How do you know that you're being effective with getting free, accessible art to San Francisco?
Well, I think there's two ways. I think there's our social media presence and our Instagram. We have, I think, over 3,000 followers, and just the feedback that we get through there. And for me personally, when I really knew that we were making a real contribution to the city of San Francisco, when I did the first mural myself. I did one in the Castro a couple of months into Paint the Void being born. And just the number of people that stopped every single day that I was out there and just thanked me just from the bottom of their heart, and just watching people's faces light up when they're walking by to see something colorful and something hopeful instead of just a blank plywood.
Can you describe
board.
your piece?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to make a piece that was an homage to things I miss in quarantine. So I chose to paint on one of my favorite restaurants in the Castro, Francis. It's this French cuisine place that's delightful. And I painted a scene of actually just me, my best friends sitting around a table, kind of imagining us sitting around in that cafe. And it's two of my best friends and my sister, neither of whom I had seen for 3 months at that point, because we were all quarantined, away from each other. And there was also around the corner, there's a scene with these two androgynous figures kind of reenacting that famous kiss photograph when the sailor kisses the nurse. But because it's the Castro, I just made them really, it's funny how people ask me like, oh, what gender are they? And people have different interpretations. And then also in there, I have two portraits of people that have passed. One of them is the grandmother of our co-founder, Shannon Riley. Both of her grandparents actually passed in the last 6 months due to COVID. And it was difficult for her. And it's, I wanted to speak to the fact that the reason that we do this quarantine, the reason that we practice, mask wearing and social distancing is for our elders and for people that are vulnerable, that are really important to us and that we cherish and love.
That is a very important message. And it reminds you of the power of art to speak to this moment. And I love that you have everyday people, if you don't mind me saying that, in your murals. I used to work at a mural agency in Los Angeles, and the Mexican muralism tradition also, it helps vault the contributions of people who are often overlooked. And I think, can you talk maybe about how you decided to do murals as opposed to any other type of art form, which you guys are both trained in?
Oh, I mean, I think that, the bare bones of it, it's really simple to execute a mural. You don't need a lot of equipment. You don't need a lot of overhead or anything. You can just, pick up a paintbrush and start it. It's also a pretty safe activity, and yeah, very, very easy to execute.
There was also a need in the city because when the plywood boards started going up, it just all of a sudden looked like the apocalypse. And just walking around the neighborhood, people that lived in neighborhoods with commercial kind of corridors, it's just really was adding to the scary feeling of what's going on. All the businesses are closed. How are we going to survive economically? And a lot of the plywood boards were beginning to get tagged with just some random stuff. There was some hate speech happening, you know, and to take that canvas and to turn it into something pretty and hopeful seemed really important and really meaningful.
It's like the space is cared for. The streets still have people and the mark of people who are hopeful. And it makes me think specifically now that we're in mid-September, some of these businesses are reopening and they're taking down the plywoods. That means they're taking down the murals as well. Maybe Meredith, can you tell us what happens to the Paint the Void work?
This whole project, we have a slew of amazing volunteers, which has been incredible, helping us along the way. And one of those volunteer groups is a removal crew who has, to the best of their ability, when the owners take down the boards, will go, schedule a pickup. And we are partnered with the Midway Gallery, who is storing some of the boards for us temporarily. We're hoping to have a show with them eventually, which, is a difficult thing to plan right now for people to gather, but we're thinking of creative ways how we might be able to display the boards either outside or in a venue that could support the display of this many boards in the future.
Yes, 100 boards of...
way more than 100 boards, just because each mural is composed of several boards, so there's hundreds of boards.
Yeah.
Did you expect this project to get so big when you started out?
No.
We thought we would do 10.
Yeah, we thought we'd do 10.
But then we reached the fundraising goal to do 10 murals within like 48 hours or something, and just decided to keep going. And what's another one? What's another dozen?
Yeah.
And then at some point, our photographer recommended, why don't we get to 100?
Yeah, and I thought
she was crazy.
and look at you now. It doesn't sound crazy, but I guess the thing that may sound crazy, if I could ask you both, maybe starting with you, Meredith, with the realities of COVID-19 and a looming recession, it almost feels crazy to be an artist in the Bay Area, and in specifically America's most expensive city, San Francisco. Do you have any hope for the future of retaining artists? Do you have any tips? What can you tell us about how you're feeling right now?
Well, what's been really interesting is actually with the exodus of people leaving San Francisco, it's actually not the artists, it's the people who work in tech who have the ability to pick up and move. So I think knowing that I think it's over 700 artists signed up to participate in Paint the Void, there's still an amazing pool of artists who are still living and working in San Francisco, which is really amazing and refreshing to know. So I think that, hopefully, the people that remain in San Francisco will be the heartbeat that continues to carry the torch.
And Inga, if I could ask you the same question, what do you think the future for our artists will be?
Well, I think it's that what Meredith said. A lot of people can actually, as rents are dropping, people can afford to stay here. But also the gig economy is gone. The event economy is gone. The retail is picking up a little bit, but it's still like very small. The reality is that artists need jobs, need grants, need ways to make a living. And as government support is going away, it's all the more important to support artists. So I think it's people with means helping as much as they can by, like buying a piece of artwork or commissioning a mural or supporting local musicians by tipping them when they do their, digital concerts. It's all those things.
How do we support Paint the Void going forward?
We're constantly taking donations. Anybody could donate very easily at paintthevoid.org. Right when you get on the website, you'll see a donation button. It's a very easy process. And for people that can't afford to support Paint the Void through donating, helping to repost, helping to share, helping to just spread the word and spread the message is also really meaningful.
Meredith, Inga, thank you so much for telling us how you came up with the idea and execute this beautifying project for the city. And I'm really happy that I was able to share the message, I hope, today. So thank you for being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The San Francisco Village helps San Franciscans navigate the transitions of aging by connecting them with community engagement, programs, and the expertise that they need to live purposefully. Today, I'm joined by Executive Director Kate Hoepke and Program Coordinator Sarah Kent. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thanks, Trey. Thank you.
Thank you. So the San Francisco Village has characterized their work as a grassroots effort to build community. What does that look like in action?
Well, it has changed over the years. We have grown to be a community of over 600 people, about 400 older adult members, and over 200 non-member volunteers of all ages who contribute to the well-being of their neighbors. And so we have grown. We have an office over on Fulton Street now in the Richmond district. We have a staff of 5 people. We have funding from the city of San Francisco. So we really consider ourselves to be a community asset in the field of aging. And as we are becoming more and more aware, the things that we think characterize older age are actually really human experiences, such as the epidemic of social isolation and loneliness that has been named in the last several years, especially by the former Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, who talks about this epidemic, not just in terms for older people, but across the generations. We feel separated from each other. We feel disconnected. We feel untethered, especially now in 2020. And so San Francisco Village is a concrete, on-the-ground effort to bring people together.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And just kind of to speak on that a little bit, everything that you're doing, the grassroots organization and community engagement. Sarah, I'm curious, San Francisco's Village, their program assortment is ever changing and offering everything from meditation and LGBTQ plus circles to programs for financial empowerment. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about the process of building relevant programs for your members.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of listening. It's hearing from the members themselves what they are interested in. Like I have one that we just decided yesterday on Jane Fonda's new book. They're like, let's discuss this book. I'm like, great, we'll put it on the calendar. And other programs are really what ring true to either me or to Kate or to other humans. Like I read the news to find out what might feel relevant. Last year we did a program on a climate change series, and it ended in joining the youth climate strike. And that was, I was pregnant with my second child. I was like, I really need our older adults to be engaged and involved in this and to show, like personally, I need it. And I know the rest of the country need it. And to feel that support. When all of the murders this summer of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were happening too, we were all feeling just it in our hearts and being like, how are we going to discuss this? What do we do? So then Kate reached out to a friend who she knows, a 17-year-old, to be like, let's engage in some intergenerational dialogue around racial justice and what it looks like. So we were able to create a multiple week series for our members to connect with 16, 17, 18, and 19-year-olds to be like, well, what does it look like for you? What is it like? Just knowing that the way that we get news sources can be really different too. And other programs just really come up because somebody says a little something and I'm like, oh, that's important. Like Kate was sharing how she felt so renewed after spending some time out at Mount Shasta. And I was like, oh, that's so true. We really need the outdoors. So then I was like, forest bathing is a thing. So I went down a Google rabbit hole of forest bathing and found someone who could present on that topic, knowing that that's really what's sustaining us right now. So let's learn about like the science behind it. And let's learn about how we can do some forest bathing when we can't go outside because the air quality is so terrible. So what can we do virtually? So that's really been an adjustment too with COVID, is how do we do all of our community building programs online? And how do we do it through Zoom? And how do we keep our connections, which is so important. Like he was saying, this epidemic of loneliness is like even amplified more now when we're not supposed to be with other people. So how do we do it still in a really meaningful way? Like how do we keep engaging?
With that being said, given the current circumstances and shelter in place, how have you found engaging members and holding that engagement and still maintaining all of those key values? How have you found that the past few months?
Let me just say that it has really surprised me, and I think the rest of our staff and our board members, how much the pandemic has revealed to us opportunities. It's, I don't really like the slogan, the name Silver Linings, but in some way, there's been some really good new growth that's come out of this. We pivoted very quickly in mid-March, thanks to Sarah and some of the contacts that we had through our organization, to be able to put our programs online, and slowly not so slowly, pretty rapidly, we built right back up to 30, 35 opportunities a month for somebody to get on Zoom and get connected. But also at the same time, we had an influx of volunteers that just blew our minds. We had close to 100 millennial volunteers come forward and say, we want to help our older neighbors, what can we do? So we onboarded them very quickly. And primarily those volunteers have supported our members with grocery shopping, running errands for them, technology support, teaching them how to use technology if they don't know how, and some friendly visiting, some phone calls. We're doing some letter writing campaigns, which are such a kick, matching up a few people in the city to write each other longhand notes. And so it's been innovative, it's been creative, we've had to dig deep, but at our core, we understand that the reason that we exist as a community-based organization is to build community, to advance what we believe to be principles of reciprocity and mutuality, inherent connection as human beings that live in the same city. We just believe the time is now for building new majority coalitions. So I am really happy to say that last night, our board of directors voted to endorse Proposition G on the San Francisco ballot in November. Proposition G proposes to lower the voting age in local elections to 16 and 17, for 16 and 17-year-olds. And we are proud to endorse Proposition G and to say to all generations, you have an equal voice. What you think, what you say, your concerns, they matter. And let us join together.
Yes, and I think just to speak more on that, the intergenerationalness and the intersectionality and inclusiveness that comes with community, I think San Francisco Village really represents and reflects so well in your values, and just to be able to connect with so many different facets of our lovely and diverse community, not just maybe focusing your issues to include a particular population, I think, but expanding that and recognizing how everything is so interconnected.
And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about San Francisco Village is that we're growth oriented. We're really thinking of like, what else do I have to contribute, both in a way that is giving and receiving. Because of COVID, we had these already established neighborhood circles where members could connect with people in their neighborhood, and they could no longer gather in each other's houses. So we taught our members how to facilitate a group on Zoom. And we led some trainings on Zoom. We connected them with volunteers who could help them do that. And it just lets them continue to connect in that way. And they're shaping the program in that way too.
It's almost like offering them the tools they need to build the programs and build all those connections, rather than just trying to, connect something yourselves, rather just uplifting and empowering members and individuals to be able to make those connections themselves.
That's right. And as Sarah said, we are just growth oriented. We believe that every stage of life has something to teach, has something for us to contribute to. I'm forever inspired by people that I meet that are in their 80s and 90s that are telling me about what's next for them. Mm-hmm. I say, yes, this is how I want to get older. This is how I want to age. This is how I want to live. Mm-hmm. And when I meet young people who say similar things, they're inspired to learn from older people that things are still possible. Anything's possible. And to revel in the possibilities and not get buried in the bad news and the despair mm-hmm. that surrounds us. We have to keep thinking forward.
Finally, how can people get involved with what the work that's happening at San Francisco Village, and how can people contribute?
Well, there are many ways. If you're a person over the age of 55, you might want to consider membership. We have a sliding scale membership fee, which makes it affordable for every San Franciscan. And there are no requirements of membership, just simply that you want to belong and that you're looking for community. And we welcome you. Another way is to volunteer. If you don't think that you are ready for membership at all ages, we've had volunteers as young as 18 and then on up through early retirement. And volunteers, like I said, do all kinds of things in support of their older neighbors. And it's a self-regulated way to say, yes, I can contribute Tuesday, but not Wednesday, so I can manage my own schedule. And we are a nonprofit organization, so we do rely on philanthropy and donations. So you can go to our website and you can contribute on our donation page. You can subscribe to our newsletter, which goes out monthly, which Sarah and I are busy putting to bed today for October. Sarah, are there any things that I have missed in ways for people to engage?
We look at partnerships a lot too, where we see how we can work with other organizations. So maybe you as an individual want to be involved, or maybe you know of a way for your organization to connect with us as well. So we're idea builders. We're always open for collaboration and seeing if something works as an individual, as an organization.
Well, Kate and Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a lovely interacting with you all. I just want to say thank you for taking the time.
Thanks so much, Trey.
Yeah.
We love talking about what we do.
I love listening to it. And so yours.
We love what we do, and we love talking about it. And it's great, always great to be partnered with Sarah. Yeah, lots of wonderful, warm energy. Thank you for inviting us. We've really enjoyed it.
Of course. Thank you.